We are thrilled to be here in China, a country that has been at the forefront of those who build new technology and who build with blockchain the next major technology leap of our lifetime, and especially those who build with the original blockchain, Bitcoin, now back only in the form of Bitcoin SV, BSV. Do you love BSV here in China? Yes, you do. And that is what is so important to us, building. Building is part of human nature. We have always had a human history where we build, we want to create. It's part of who we are. We build places to believe. We build places to gather and monuments in the sky. We build statues of liberty. We build bridges that transport us. We build towers of business. We build so much more in terms of new technology. We build new ways to compute. We build new methods to communicate and transmit information. And we build whole new online networks that connect the globe. And that is what is bringing us all together in a digital way. And then one day, someone ingenious built something truly amazing. Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system introduced to the world by this, the Satoshi Nakamoto white paper by the man himself, Dr. Craig S. Wright. It is the blockchain for building everything. And we're seeing it here so much in China as development is exploding. And that's what we are here today and throughout this China trip we are doing to talk about, how Bitcoin SV has brought back the power of Bitcoin, because for too long, Bitcoin's blockchain was restricted in its ability to deliver this vision. But Bitcoin SV is here to be the only version of Bitcoin which adheres to the protocol, design, and vision of its creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, massively scaling to be the enterprise blockchain. And what that means is we have the ability to build the best blockchain for miners, developers, enterprises, merchants, and everyone in the ecosystem who wants to build, because that's what we care about. We are not an ecosystem that cares about releasing a token to get rich quickly. It comes from work, from building something powerful for the world. So today, I want to take my time to explain to you the journey of how we are building this future, by first talking about how Bitcoin did not yet achieve that vision, then explaining how Bitcoin SV is going to help you build the new future, talking about what you can in fact build as developers and businesses, and then finally, because we're preparing for our Genesis upgrade in February of 2020, giving you a bit of a preview of what needs to happen as we prepare for the return to Genesis. So let's take a look at some history. Why has Bitcoin, in the form of BTC, not fulfilled Satoshi's vision so far? It comes down to a very simple answer. It would not scale because the developer group that took control of Bitcoin Core artificially crippled and limited its blockchain. BTC has remained at 1 megabyte block size. That's tiny, small. It does not allow the blockchain to serve its purpose as the global data ledger of the future for all business applications. With that size, you can only do on average 3 transactions a second, or at maximum 7 transactions a second. And if you want to compete with the global payment systems to achieve that vision in the Satoshi white paper of a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, you need a system where transactions are fast, instant, safe, and very, very cheap to process. You need to compete with the global Visa network, which averages 2,000 transactions a second, or at its peak, 56,000 transactions a second. And with 1 megabyte blocks, you can never, ever compete with the Visa network. Unfortunately, the Bitcoin Core developer group kept the block size small, creating a different vision that was no longer Bitcoin's vision. And that creates problems on its network. It creates congestion. If too many people are sending transactions across the Bitcoin network, then it gets too full. It slows down. Here's a chart of what are the unconfirmed transactions on the BTC network. In April and May of this year, you see two big spikes. That's when there was a lot of activity, and the BTC network had up to 50,000 unconfirmed transactions at that time waiting to get into the blockchain, waiting for confirmation. And that's too slow for a global transaction system. BTC is not the only one having this problem. On Ethereum, they've tried to create a blockchain for smart contracts and tokens, but Vitalik Buterin just earlier this year had to finally publicly acknowledge what we've known all along. The Ethereum network is having scaling problems, and he acknowledged in a media interview that the Ethereum blockchain is almost full. Businesses cannot onboard onto the Ethereum blockchain. They're trying to solve this with Ethereum 2.0, but they're running into scaling problems because people would not just trust the original design of Bitcoin, which Craig Wright launched the world many years ago. People tried to change it, cripple it, bastardize it, as opposed to looking at what's right in front of their face all along. Bitcoin works if you just allow it to scale. Satoshi Nakamoto wrote about this all the way back in April of 2009, at the very beginning of Bitcoin's history, in an email to Mike Hearn, saying there is only one global chain. That the Bitcoin network at that time, this is 10 plus years ago, could exceed and compete with the Visa credit card network. And he wrote then, the Bitcoin network, it says here, it never really hits a scale ceiling. It never really hits a scale ceiling. So Bitcoin was born and created to never hit a scale ceiling, yet the Bitcoin Core BTC camp crippled its blockchain, restricted its size, and that is not what the Satoshi vision was born to do. In fact, read the top line, there's only one global chain. We believe in a world of a single global public blockchain, just like we operate on a single global internet. Not a world of 1,000 blockchains and cryptocurrency projects, but one to hold everything, to operate everything. So that's why Bitcoin has not achieved the vision of Satoshi Nakamoto, because it was artificially limited. How are we now with Bitcoin SV finally building that vision for all of you? Well, it begins very simply with big blocks. I like big blocks, not tiny 1 megabyte blocks on BTC, or not even 32 megabyte block size on BCH, which we did support for some time, until it became clear they wanted a totally different vision. We believe in very big blocks. The BSV network now has a default hard cap on its block size of 2 gigabytes. That's over 2,000 megabytes, 2,000 times larger than the BTC network. Most of the mining pools, however, have set lower for a period of time to 256 megabytes to give the network time to adjust to this higher capacity. But even then, instantly, large blocks were mined on BSV after we did our protocol upgrade in July, which lifted the block size. On July 28th, two of the biggest blocks ever mined on a public blockchain occurred on BSV at 256 megabytes in size. The BTC developer community has told the world for years, Bitcoin cannot scale. That's why they had to restrict the block size. They are wrong. BSV is proving them wrong every single day. Not only do we have the 256 megabyte block size, if you look on a block explorer like Blockchair, on the right side here, this is the rank in descending order of the biggest blocks ever mined on Bitcoin SV. The 256 megabyte blocks are at the top, then 248 megabytes, 248 megabytes, 217, 210, 183, 148, and so forth. Big blocks are happening on Bitcoin SV so often these days, it's boring. And that's the way it should be. It should be so regular, so boring, so non-eventful for big blocks of this size that we have a blockchain that can support global usage. And we're going even bigger. In February of this year, the Bitcoin SV node team is going to deliver the Genesis hard fork protocol upgrade. It is critical. It is going to restore the Bitcoin protocol as closely as possible as we can get it to the original Satoshi design released in 2009, changing things to restore and fix a lot of the problems created by prior developer groups. And one of the biggest changes is to completely remove any block cap that is set in the code, or more accurately, set it to infinite. There will be no block cap. What does that mean for the network? It doesn't mean automatically you're going to get monster blocks. What it means is you take power out of the developer groups. So a group like Bitcoin Core cannot tell you you can't do bigger blocks and bigger transaction capacity. It will be up to the miners and the mining pools who provide the infrastructure, the security through their computing power, and the hash power that sustains the network to decide what blocks they want to mine, what blocks they want to accept in terms of what size is demanded by market forces. Because that's how Bitcoin should have always worked. It depends on the marketplace. Leave it to the marketplace to decide what is profitable. This is also critical to ensure Bitcoin mining stays profitable for years to come. The miners are who sustain the network. And remember, mining revenue is composed of two key parts: a fixed subsidy, a fixed amount of coins that the winning miner gets for every block, plus all of the individual transaction fees that are paid for every transaction that's contained within a block. You put those two together, and that is what a winning miner receives as their block reward. Well, Bitcoin's design, its economic system created by Craig, always intended that that subsidy would reduce over time. It cuts in half approximately every 4 years. It began at 50 coins, then it cut to 25 coins, then it cut in half again to 12.5 coins. Well, next April and May on the different Bitcoin networks, that will cut in half again to 6.25 coins, and then in 4 years, only 3.125 coins. What does that mean? It means that miner revenue for winning a block based upon that fixed subsidy amount will continue to reduce. And you cannot just assume the coin price goes up. And if it cuts in half, miners need something else to stay profitable. Otherwise, they will stop mining. What is that? Well, it is going to come from the transaction fees. This is how Bitcoin's genius economic design was always meant to work. You start with blocks in the beginning, where the fixed subsidy is the biggest amount of the revenue. The transaction fees in the beginning were small because very few people were sending transactions. And then it moves over time to a stage where you get about equal revenue from the fixed subsidy and transaction fees. But ultimately, for Bitcoin mining to stay profitable for years to come, you have to create a world where the transaction fees are the larger amount of the revenue. So therefore, fixed subsidy goes down, but the transaction fee revenue needs to go up. What is the only way for that to happen? For that to happen, you need bigger blocks. You need bigger blocks to fit in many, many more transactions to get more in transaction fees. Because we want to keep the transaction fees small because we want many people to use Bitcoin. Therefore, you need blocks to be big to collect more transaction fees. Otherwise, mining will become more and more non-profitable. This is critical, and it's a key part of our vision and our design for Bitcoin SV's future. We are testing through our team on a scaling test network much bigger blocks. After our July protocol upgrade, the team ran a stress test and successfully mined 12 consecutive blocks of 2 gigabytes, the full 2 gigabyte size. Remember, Bitcoin Core told you for years Bitcoin cannot scale. We showed on a scaling test network 12 consecutive 2 gigabyte blocks. That's big, it's impressive, but that's not the important part of the story. The important part of the story is how much Bitcoin the winning miners would receive for those 2 gigabyte blocks. If you mine a block in that full 2 gigabytes, the total fees for the 2 of those blocks were almost 40 coins. That's 12.5 coins of fixed subsidy, plus 27.5 additional coins for transaction fees. This is how mining stays profitable in the future. For the miners in the room and watching this video, you need scale to ensure profitability. So next year, when the fixed subsidy cuts in half to 6.25 coins, or in 4 more years to 3.1 coins, it's okay because you're getting more in transaction fees. That is a key part of the design economically of Bitcoin. And one of our key supporters here in China ran a stress test on the mainnet, not even on the scaling test network, pumping 2 million individual transactions in 1 hour onto the Bitcoin SV mainnet. That resulted in 2 big blocks of 210 and 150 megabytes in size. They fit in 800,000 and 700,000 individual payment transactions into a block. And what happened there is the total fees were 15 BSV, 12.5 fixed coins, plus another 2.5 coins in transaction fee revenue. This is a sign of the future. And this is the only way we have a sustainable network that builds something great for everyone. Because without miners, there is no Bitcoin network. So BSV is clearly the only blockchain that will sustain miner profitability in the future. Because we need and care about the miners. We're doing even more. Our scaling test network now is mining blocks that are pumping even more transactions to test how many can be fit into a block. And now they're mining blocks with 2.7 to 4 million individual transactions in one block. That's millions of transactions per block. And in fact, the team reset the scaling test network a little over a month ago. And in that 1 month, the scaling test network mined over 1.4 billion transactions, billion with a B, in less than 1 month. For comparison, BTC, over its over 10-year history, that is 3 times the number of transactions BTC has done in over 10 years. That the scaling test network we're running shows can be done in just 1 month. This is a future that will provide, just at even 2 gigabyte block sizes, theoretical capacity of about 9,000 transactions of a second. And this is how you start competing with the Visa, MasterCard, and other payment networks of the world. This is the scale you need. And we believe in even bigger. The N-Chain team we work with is working on a project called TerraNode. It is a microservices architecture version of the Bitcoin SV node software that is designed for big enterprise use. And it's designed for a world where we believe you can have terabyte-sized blocks, 1 million megabytes, that will process and handle 4 billion transactions potentially in one block and create a network that has capacity of 7 million transactions a second. Now, why would we want this? It's not because you need blocks of that size for payment transactions. It's because, as so many of you in this room understand, the Bitcoin network is more. It is a data ledger that can power everything. And I do mean everything. The whole world's commerce, the internet itself. And for that, you need blocks that are large, that can handle massive transaction volume with speed and tiny, tiny, tiny fees. And we're seeing already in BSV's just 1-year history that it has gradually started to grow because people like you in this room are building. This is the chart on CoinDesk that tracks the Bitcoin data for competing networks. Yellow is the BTC network, staying about the same. This is the chart for its average block size, about an average of 1 megabyte. Green is BCH, Bitcoin Cash. The red chart is BSV. You can see we've had some spikes, but the trend is clear, consistently growing and now regularly overtaking BTC. Same thing for average number of transactions that fit within a block. Trend line going up. In addition, the total number of transactions that are pumped through the network every day. The trend line, again, going up and surpassing BTC. And I think next year that's going to escalate even more. And something really remarkable happened this week. For the very first time, BSV surpassed the Ethereum network in the number of transactions that pumped through the network within 24 hours. Just this morning, I woke up, and earlier this week, it had gotten to about 650,000 transactions. But overnight, in the last 24 hours, as of 8:31 a.m. this morning here in Beijing, we had 850,000 plus transactions in the last 24 hours on BSV, compared to the BTC network of only 311,000 and poor Bitcoin Cash at 35,000. So we're showing every day that Bitcoin through BSV can scale, can handle more transactions, and deal with a lot of the congestion problems that are plaguing other networks. And that is leading miners to recognize it's profitable to mine on BSV. The diversity of mining pools has grown, so more and more mining pools are joining and building on BSV. We welcome them to do so. This is going to be the future. There's also a practical benefit. It's not just because we like big blocks. It's not just because we like miners. This is necessary to create a technology platform that can be used for wide-scale business. Massive scaling means the transaction fees to work on the network are low and, more importantly, reliable. That's what every business wants so they can plan and budget. How much does it cost to transact on your network? Well, on BTC, there's wild swings. This is a chart of the BTC transaction fees in US dollars per transaction. You see a huge spike in January of 2018. That was when the crypto buying craze happened because the BTC price shot up very high to almost 20,000 US dollars at the time. Everyone started buying, and at the time it cost almost 40 US dollars to send a single transaction on the BTC network. That's far too high. It's come down since, but it's still high and unreliable. In fact, I took some data from earlier this year on BTC. In May, it was over 4 US dollars to send a transaction. In November, on November 5th, it was almost $1.40. That is both not just too high for a global payment network, it's not predictable. How are you supposed to create a business not knowing whether it costs 40 cents, $1.40, or $4.40 to send large numbers of transactions? You can't do it. Ethereum is facing the same issues. This is just from November 23rd. Ethereum transaction fees hit 30 US dollars to send a transaction on the Ethereum network. What is it on Bitcoin SV? Because of our big blocks and scaling capacity, it's really cheap. Less than 1/20th of 1 US cent to send a transaction on the BSV network right now. Less than 1/20th of 1 US cent. And Craig and I believe that's still even too high. He wants to see it fractions of that so that the Bitcoin network can power all world commerce. This is the future that will allow all of you in this room and everywhere around the world to build amazing applications. So third, I want to talk to you about what it is that you can build on Bitcoin SV. And the answer is everything. You can build anything you can dream of. And that's because BSV enables microtransactions, micropayments, the ability to send small amounts of money, the ability to send data easily across the blockchain because it costs so little to send and store the transactions on the blockchain. This takes advantage of Bitcoin's power to fuse two things: data, bit, with monetary value, coin. That's what Bitcoin is. It's giving monetary value to data and changing how we as consumers and businesses interact and use data in a way that has value to us as consumers and has value more to businesses. So as a result of this, we've seen an explosion of development in the BSV ecosystem. There are now over 350 different applications. You see some listed here, tools, resources, protocols to build on the Bitcoin SV blockchain. And this has all happened in just a year. Let me give you a few examples. Uptime SV won our first BSV hackathon. It is a project from a team in Australia that created an inventive idea using your mobile phones and other devices to provide their computing power, because there's a lot of computing power in them, to help companies test the uptime or downtime of their websites. Companies pay services to do this. You can crowdsource this and distribute it to all of you. The approach is very simple. You as a user could download their mobile app to your mobile device, and then you elect to provide the computing power of your mobile device as well as its geolocation capabilities to test a company's website, whether it's available here in Beijing, in Seattle, in the United States, where I live, in London, United Kingdom, where Craig lives. And because our phones are moving around all the time, it provides real geo-live data about whether websites are available in different parts of the world. And this has led Uptime SV to collect users already, representing 61 different countries around the world. The companies have a dashboard so that they can actually be monitoring the up and downtime data of their websites. And as a user, what do you get in return? You earn small amounts of BSV that are provided to your mobile wallet on an ongoing basis because it's so cheap, fast, and easy to send BSV transactions. This is changing our approach and thinking about what you can do with Bitcoin. It's not just a cryptocurrency you buy on an exchange and hold, hoping to get rich. It's something people can use and earn. The company and project that won our second Bitcoin SV hackathon took this yet another step. It's Coda, another team out of Australia. They created a marketplace to help developers actually earn money from their projects, their APIs. Developers often have created APIs and tools. They publish them online. People use them for free, and you don't make any money. Well, with Coda, you can upload your APIs to this marketplace, and when other developers or companies use your API, they pay you in small amounts of Bitcoin SV. For example, for every API pool, or depending on the number of transactions that are happening. It's a very ingenious system to create this new world, which I and Craig want to see, which is a world where you don't just buy cryptocurrency and hold it, hoping to get rich, but where you earn and use Bitcoin in daily life, in many different ways, in a cyclical new BSV economy. That is what will change the future. And leads also to Craig's biggest vision, which is a new, more commercial internet that can be built with Bitcoin SV. And that is the MetaNet. Craig has talked about it a lot. I describe it as the fusion of the Bitcoin and the internet. The MetaNet project out of Nguyen has designed a global protocol and a framework for structuring and facilitating the on-chain internet for the BSV blockchain. It uses the same data structure, the blockchain, to take advantage of Bitcoin's ability to remember to do two things: to combine money, payments, and data at the same time. In its simplest form, think about the blockchain as the ability to act as a universal server. So instead of running websites where you need to rent server space from a website hosting company, the data that can power your websites, your applications, can live on the blockchain because it's public, accessible to anyone. The data, websites, and content we use on a daily basis can be hosted on-chain. And so the MetaNet protocol released by Nguyen is a data structure for organizing how people and companies would upload and provide their data to the Bitcoin blockchain so it's more easily findable, so it can be used in a whole MetaNet structure. So from the blockchain, as you can see on the right represented there, you could have data storage, you could create search engines that will search for information and content and data on the blockchain and deliver them to you as users in a more organized fashion. You can create applications that pull data from the blockchain. You can even do identity management, where stored on the blockchain is information that you've provided about you that you can then authorize companies to access from the blockchain and then make money for it. In today's internet world, you do not make money from your data. Social media companies do. Internet service providers do by selling access to your data to advertisers and other people. But what if we had a new world where you could manage your identity, stored on the blockchain, and earn small amounts of BSV in micropayments, because it's so cheap to do little micropayments, that are paid to your Bitcoin wallet anytime some company accesses your data with your permission. That creates a better, new, more commercial internet, just not for companies, but for you as the internet user. So there's some applications already in the BSV world that are experimenting with this. Twitch is one of those applications reinventing the internet's social media landscape. Because social media is really tragic sometimes. You can create anonymous accounts, people troll people, they harass people online. It happens a lot in the crypto world because it's free to use. But what if you actually had to pay to post a social media message, a small amount of Bitcoin? Twitch is a project with a team globally that's doing that. It's like Twitter, but you actually have to pay. So here you can see there's 2 cents I had to pay to Twitch this message. And then as a result, I get money back. Because why would I do this? Well, anytime any of you might like my post or reply to it, you pay me back for the opportunity to engage. So I've tested it out. At this point, I did 17 Twitches, and I made back $20.21 in US currency. I'm doing pretty good. I'm averaging about $1 in revenue for every Twitch that I post. What it does is reward higher quality content. People are not just going to send any random message because you actually have to pay to do it. And then people pay you back for engagement. Here in China, there's a project that is similar to this as well, called WeBlock, with different functions that is getting a lot of activity here in China. I encourage you to check it out. I sent a post earlier from this morning to commemorate our visit here to Beijing. In the review space, True Reviews is another project out of the United States. Because right now, if you're a consumer and you go to a restaurant or an airline or a hotel and you post your review on Yelp, for example, in the United States, you don't make any money from it. The company that's hosting the service makes money by selling data and your content. But what if you had to pay to post a review? It will help eliminate fake reviews and fraudulent reviews. And then, if you're a really good reviewer, people can tip you. They can pay you in small amounts of BSV to reward you. The restaurants, the merchants can also tip you for good reviews. There's all kinds of things you can do because you engage in micropayments so that all of our interactions on the internet can be commercialized and create, as Craig envisions, a better internet that eliminates a lot of the bad activity on the internet. That leads to a big final category of use, which is BSV is the universal source for big data. This is because of BSV's greater data capacity. Remember, the blockchain is a ledger. And in fact, if you go back and read the Bitcoin white paper, it is a time-stamp ledger, a recording of transactions on a time chronological basis that's public, meaning it's auditable, verifiable, and transparent. Companies are discovering that you can use the blockchain to send lots of streams of data for activity that we want to record permanently. RateSV is a project here in China that is recording financial data to the blockchain, sending to the blockchain cryptocurrency prices, stock prices, futures prices on an ongoing basis. What was the BTC or BSV price today at this time and in 5 minutes and in 10 minutes and in 1 hour? And that's stored permanently on the blockchain. There's a project doing that with air quality index data here in China for 3,000 cities in China, recording air quality information so that anyone can access it later. Now, why would anyone do this? It's because then you can create information marketplaces where people pay to access the data later for study. In the gaming world, a company in the United States, Chronoverse, is doing this for esports and competitive gaming. They have a game called Crypto Fights. It's like Dungeons and Dragons, but in the digital world. You create an avatar, and then you roll dice, and then your avatar fights another avatar from another player. And each of those moves, they're going to record as a separate transaction in the blockchain so that you can go back later and revisit the battles, study the battles of the top players and see their strategy. And they believe this will create a new way of more fair esports gaming and create a more fair system for the world of esports betting, which is becoming more popular. So it's a use of the blockchain for its data capacity to track things and allow people to recreate and revisit game battles in the future. Weather is always an important topic, and one of the leading applications in BSV is called WeatherSV. You pay a few dollars in Australian dollars to open up a weather channel, and you can constantly stream every hour the weather information from your city. So for example, in Seattle, United States, where I live now, someone's got a channel and it's constantly recording. Why would you do that? It's because in the future, people may want to access a universal source of weather data that's not disputed, as is happening with climate change battles now, where you can access it, you can use it to study large volumes of weather information around the world, and they can charge for it. So what does this mean? It means that the Bitcoin blockchain can become a universal store of data. Instead of companies keeping data for themselves to do analysis for big data, they can access it if people are providing it to the blockchain. And it's public. Everyone can see it. It's audible. It's verifiable. Paul Chiari, who is the founder of WeatherSV, described this well. He said, "Our belief in the potential of the original Bitcoin protocol has been realized in BSV. We can now build on a platform with the inherent benefits of blockchain technology that also meets the technical and economic demands of high-volume data applications." That summarizes well the power of BSV. So let me wrap up by telling you about the final step in where we're going with Bitcoin SV. It was just released yesterday, the beta software code for the Genesis hard fork protocol upgrade for Bitcoin SV. As I said earlier, this is a pivotal moment in restoring the original vision of Bitcoin. Let me give you a quick summary of what's happening. Here's a timeline of events that are going to take place between now and February 4th. The beta release of the code was just yesterday. Next week, the technical specification for the Genesis software code will be published. And this is being published both in English as well as in Chinese. On the bitcoinsv.io website, there's a section just for the Genesis upgrade. And then after that, through the end of December, there will be a testing period where we want applications and people in the ecosystem to help test the software and how their applications run with the Genesis software, leading to security audit results in January of early 2020, and then activation on February 4th, 2020. This is an important moment, and we want all participants in the ecosystem to participate in the testing process to see how your applications fare along the way. What does this mean? We've set up 2 new public testnets, one the Genesis testnet and another called the Genesis Reset testnet. You can read more about it on the bitcoinsv.io website. You can test your applications or your nodes if you're a miner on either of these 2 public testnets or on the current Bitcoin SV scaling test network. But we do not recommend testing the new beta software on the mainnet. Let me repeat that. We do not recommend testing the beta version of the Genesis hard fork software on the mainnet. The next month's testing period is to see if there are any particular issues that need to be addressed by our team, and they might create fixes and release new beta versions until early January, when they will announce that they have a version which they will declare stable. Once they've declared a stable version, then they will encourage everyone in the ecosystem to upgrade. Who should use the testnets? Any user of the Bitcoin SV node software should be testing their applications or their node. That's the operators of mining nodes, and secondly, what we call blockchain listeners. Everyone else calls them a node, but we say if you're not writing transactions to the blockchain, you're more like a listener to the blockchain. That's wallets, exchanges, applications, and others running instances of the BSV node software. Then there will be an announcement in early January that a release is stable, and at that point, we will tell the world, everyone, upgrade your nodes, do it now. Do not wait for February 4th. Do it before the February 4th date in anticipation of the activation. The scaling test network will activate to Genesis about 2 weeks before. And then finally, the main hard fork activation will happen on February 4th. We can't give you an exact time of day because it's not based on time. It's based on block height activation. But the hard fork will activate at block height 620538, which we project to be on February 4th, 2020, and we'll be giving announcements about the estimated time as the date gets closer. So that is the road to Genesis. And it's an important step to restore the original vision Satoshi Nakamoto, Craig Wright, gave the world over 10 years ago. We are thrilled and excited. It's unfortunate that it took us so long in Bitcoin's history to get here. But now that we're here, the future is bright to build. And it's part of the human condition to want to build. And that's why we are here to talk to you about building the best blockchain for miners, for developers, for merchants, for enterprises, and for everyone. That's part of our human condition. We've always been part of our nature to want to build something bigger, to build something better, to build something more profound that we leave for next generations. And I'm excited to see all of that here in China and the BSV ecosystem, continuing this human journey to build. We build places to believe. We build monuments in the sky. We build walls to protect. We build places to gather. We build gifts to friends. We build statues of liberty. We build metropolises. We build bridges and highways to transport us. We build towers of business. We build escalating marketplaces. We build architecture that inspires. And then we build new technology. We build new ways to compute. We build a medium to broadcast. We build new methods to communicate and transmit information. We build a truly global online network. We build new ways to value data. We build new methods to handle money, to pay, to shop, and a whole world of electronic commerce. We build new systems to interact with the environment around us, and we build a dazzling array of digital services that connect the globe. And then one day, someone ingenious built something truly amazing, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, Bitcoin, a blockchain, a ledger that builds everything. And Bitcoin's original vision, Satoshi vision, is back here on fire with Bitcoin SV. And it's time to build. China, what will you build?